Shalom, shalom, Mishpachah. This is Yerd Yao checking in. Let's go. Shalom, shalom, everybody. I hope that you guys are blessed. We are just going to go ahead and get right back into it. You guys, this has been really an exercise in understanding, because I will tell you, it looks like that there's a real war going on here. It looks like that all the major players are involved. If you don't know any better, this is just, speaking as a man right now, as a layman. If you don't know any better, you've got ancient Israel and ancient Persia going back and forth in a battle for the region. Do you see what I'm saying? You have literally an ancient battle that is being played out right before your eyes in a weird, style of prophecy that is just playing right before you if you don't know any better. Well, you do have prophecy playing out before your eyes, but definitely not in the way that you think it is if you are just a casual observer. You guys, you are not looking at retaliation. You're looking at reconciliation, you guys. You're looking at I guess you could say, a reorganization of the Iranian government. You're really looking at regime change right here. We talked about this in the last video, that you're not looking at a real, full, organic war. You're looking at a war that has been fomented before your eyes to make a change happen. We talked about this in the last video, about how nuclear weapons, and I've got a video that I want to show you guys, and he's going to go into nuclear weapons a little bit, but I just don't believe that nuclear weapons are the threat that they pretend that they are. But what they're going to do is use this threat of nuclear weapons to actually implement the real weapon, which is AI, drone, and drone technology, which will allow Iran and the Iranian government, or whoever's in control of the Iranian government, to best control its people. And this guy, I have to give a shout out to the channel A Current Conspiracy, because this guy has been on it for a very long time. You guys, this is the guy that predicted that Trump would be shot. He predicted it. He predicted it like 4 years ago, and it happened last year. Just looking at the propaganda in the news media and being able to analyze it based off of things that have already happened, based off of things that have come true in the media, that the media has forecasted. You guys know about The Simpsons and all these other things that have forecasted events that they have already had planned for a very long time. So this is the channel that forecasted Trump being shot, the Trump assassination attempt. Literally from 4 years ago, he predicts that there would be, just based off looking at what the media was saying, that there would be some sort of assassination attempt, even a shot to the head. This is, something that was put out 4 years ago, and I don't want to continue to just talk too reckless on here, because you don't want to get flagged for saying anything just completely reckless. But this guy predicted, just based off of what's going on, what the media was foreshadowing, that there would be an assassination attempt, as in a shooting that would happen in association with Donald Trump. And then that's exactly what happens. You go to his page and look back 4 years ago and see, I commented on it on the video, when it happened, or close to around when it happened. And then a few other people did too. If you look at the video, it said, "This happens today." I think I did a video on it. This happened today. This came true today. Do you see what I'm saying? Just to prove that, that there is some sort of foreshadowing for major events that is happening in the future that the media is, has knowledge of, and is, planting the idea in your mind. Do you see what I'm saying? And I want you to look at what he found about what's going on now. And this is from 2010, and it definitely goes into everything that we've been talking about on this channel, about how there's no more nation versus nation war, that all war is directed from the government down to its people. It's not Iran versus Israel anymore. It's just not the case. There's no means by which to do this. They've all, tacitly agreed in this nuclear agreement. But now it's Israel versus its people, and Iran versus its people. Do you see what I'm saying? Israel, the government of Israel, and this is Ashkenazi Israel, of course, versus its people, and then Iran versus its people. It's all been played out biblically. Excuse me, you guys. Elohim has predicted this since 2,500 years ago, and we're going to get into that too. You guys, the Gog and Magog prophecy is the most incredible prophecy that you'll ever see, you guys. It's just, without a doubt, the most incredible prophecy you will ever see. It's a proven prophecy. I mean, there's no way around it. People want to talk about, Deuteronomy 28. People want to talk about Isaiah 53 with Mashiach. People want to, make all of these doubts and claims and counterclaims or whatever. You cannot counterclaim this one. This one is clear cut, at least 1,000 years. 1,000 years written before it begins to look like it'll come true. And now here we are, 1,500 years after that, in the absolute epicenter of the Gog and Magog prophecy, you guys. It's the most incredible thing that I've ever seen in the scripture. Just played out, plain as day. But before we get to that, we're going to watch this video right here of this guy breaking down what we've been talking about for the past few days here with this Iran-Israel conflict, you guys. Check it out. I hope you guys can hear it.
It starts with Israel attacking Iran. The plan is to provoke Iran or China to retaliate. And our guy, our source, who is a military man, is privately as convinced as he can be, although this has never been made public and this is not publicly known, that Iran does have nuclear weapons. He believes that they have been provided by China behind the scenes. And all of this is intended.
All right, so you see that he predicts that Israel would attack Iran first, and that's exactly what happened. But he then goes into this thread of nuclear weapons, and maybe that's true, maybe it's not. Maybe the capability of nuclear weapons are exactly what they say they are. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're the old news technology from yesterday. Doesn't mean it's still not powerful technology. Doesn't mean they can't do a lot of damage. But as far as the damage that they say they can do, I don't believe it. But that excuse is being used to start something else. So let's go ahead and continue to listen here.
Because it's all right with these controlling forces that Iran has nuclear weapons, because they want them to be used. The plan is for either Iran or for China to retaliate after Iran is struck with a nuclear weapon. At that point, there will be a limited nuclear exchange in the Middle East, followed by a ceasefire. He heard this being planned in this meeting. This is being choreographed.
Right, did you hear that? How the war itself is being choreographed, you guys. It's being choreographed. And we don't know who in the in the Iranian government is aware. We know that the the people that are still alive are probably the ones that helped organize it on their side. You have to recognize the guy that's in charge right now, Khomeini, has been in charge, has been the supreme leader of Iran since the 80s. And we've been in coordinates with, or correspondence with Iran since the 60s, you guys. We put the previous Khomeini, his name is Khomeini, and this guy's name is Khomeini. We put the previous Khomeini in power. The CIA put the previous dictator in power in Iran in the 60s, you guys. In the 60s. So all of the threat, and we talked about this last video, the threat of war or nuclear war, as in an organic my country's boss versus your country's boss, is fiction, you guys, because the CIA has run Iran since the 60s. That tells you a whole different story about the Iran-Contra, tells you a whole different story about the medalists that were kidnapped. What was it? The medalists that were kidnapped in the 70s? The guns in exchange for hostages, craziness. All that was orchestrated for Iran to be able to have its own power structure, but to be ran from the top. You can only do so much in a situation like that because you always have the ability for people to catch on and rebel. And so this is what is happening now, is that for the last 40 years, and this is again over 40 years, you've had Khomeini that's in charge, but he's had rebellions in the 90s, rebellions in the 2000s, and then or in the 2010s, and then a rebellion in the 2020s. So they're in need of regime change. Do you see what I'm saying? Iran is right now nearing the end of its Khomeini era. So they're foreshadowing now in the news that they're trying to take him out. Looks like this is Khomeini, that they're trying to kill him. It looks like what they're going to do is have this hunt for him, and this, like they did with Saddam, like they did with Osama, that they're looking for him, and then they'll, discover him and either kill him on the spot, like they did, what's his name down in Libya, Gaddafi, or they'll arrest him and then put him on trial and then kill him. Do you see what I'm saying? Either way, he must have also been a guy that the CIA put in place, just like Saddam. The CIA put Saddam in place, just like bin Laden. The CIA put bin Laden in place. We know this already. So the interplay between countries is not about global warfare or World War III or whatever you want to call it. It's about how the people inside that country are governed. Are they governed closer and more stringently and more sophisticated than the previous administration? Absolutely. That's what this is about wiping out this administration, wiping out its leadership, replacing it with one that is AI friendly and technologically savvy, so that they can sick that style of technology on the people and better control them. And then why not have a few fireworks along the way? Let's keep watching.
It's like the script for a movie. This is exactly what's intended to happen. During this time, the other thing that's being set up for this, and many people watching this will be aware that this is being set up in the background. We've had a lot of information about this from a number of good researchers from many countries who are reporting this on the internet, that things are being set up in many of the Western countries for there to be heavy controls over populations, martial law, increased powers on security forces who are not just the army of the police, but in Britain, for example, our source said that he absolutely knew personally for a fact, that a very large number of private security people, their powers were being increased to give them the ability to arrest people, the ability to detain, the ability to handle riots in streets. And here we're talking about just regular people working in private security, people who give the parking tickets in the streets. Their powers are being increased in the same way.
You guys see that? You guys hear what he said 15 years ago. So what he's saying is that in all of the Western countries, they are increasing the ability for police on the ground to do extrajudicial justice, punishment, detainment, and basically overall, I guess you would call it containment or oppression or authoritative style of governance. That they're literally locking people down in every country based on their low-level police forces, and not even police forces, but private security. You guys, what do you think ICE is? ICE is not immigration or anything like that. It's private security. These people, we don't know the stringency of how they are chosen. We don't know where they're even coming from. Who has seen anybody recruiting any ICE agents? We don't know anything about the policies of ICE or anything like that. You guys, ICE is that new, strong, private security firm that is controlling America right now. It's ICE. Just what he's talking about has been implemented in the United States this year, you guys, this year. And of course, it's there to police a population. And they're using drones, they're using, tactical equipment, and they're using technology to basically terrorize a deemed illegal part of the population. So this part of the population is deemed as being illegal. Therefore, we can strip them of their rights, and we can terrorize them, and then we can, pull back from just this illegal group and include another group that we've now deemed illegal, and another group that we've now deemed illegal. And before long, you've got more people that are deemed illegal and that are subject to having all of their rights taken away, including the right to live. And then you have a small minority who are deemed legal and beyond the process, you guys. That's the nation that's being set up in America. That's what they're going to also do in Iran, if they don't already have that, because in Iran it's more vicious than it is here. But the ability to control people's minds so they will not rebel would be stronger with an AI government in place instead of a nuclear one. You see, to change an administration, to change to make a regime change, you're also going into a new era of weaponry. Because in this new era, you have to also control the people. And if you're controlling the people good with the nuclear deterrent or the Israel deterrent in Iran for the last time, but here in the last few years, people have been rebelling, you now have to up the ante. Because again, the people are a whole different ball game from the government. The people in the government will be doing one thing, the people will be doing another. The people will believe the government to be on their side, but the government is, now, technologically advanced enough to propagandize its society to the point of destruction. And that's what's happening. You're having a regime change in Iran so that they can update the oppression, you guys, so that they can update the oppression and have better access, because that's, of course, people that are interconnected, these groups that are interconnected, and we'll talk about the interconnected groups here. But these groups that are interconnected want access to one another, and they can't always do that because the system that they set up themselves doesn't necessarily allow them to do that, except from one position, from the top and from the cabinets and from the people that they have in place. To have full access, they would have to have an AI system in place, a computerized digital system where they can track everybody. And that's what they want, both at the top in Iran and at the top in Israel. So this back and forth, 20 people in Israel killed, 100 killed in Iran, the bombs going off in the air, and the defense systems, and the oil refineries getting blown up, the nuclear sites getting blown up, is all stage play. It's all $1 million stage play, but stage play nonetheless, because it's this that they're worried about fooling. If they can make you believe that Israel in Iran is a big enough threat, then you can lead the people to do anything and to give up any right. And the same thing for vice versa, you guys. So there's something really, really big on the horizon that's going to happen for those two nations, you guys. It's something that is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be nuclear war. Maybe it is. Maybe it's going to be the threat of nuclear war. But there's going to be this is a shift in the understanding of what it means to be these two different countries. There will be a regime change, and so I'm thinking that they are going to eventually target and kill that supreme leader, the Khomeini, the supreme leader. I'll tell you, watching the news, you can get pulled one way or the other, because Trump said here that he didn't approve of the war, or remember there was a news report that came out that said that, and I reported it, that Benjamin Netanyahu called Trump and asked Trump to help him strike Iran, and Trump said, no, it's not time yet, but we can do that in the future. And so, oh, well, yeah, okay, well, he's not going to do that yet. Maybe he'll do it down the line. Then next thing you know, Netanyahu strikes Iran, right? He just goes ahead and does it. And so you're thinking, oh, well, is he disobeying Trump? Is he, not helping? Of course not. It's just the propaganda that they give us. Of course, they planned it together. This is the thing. It's not just an Iranian response. It's a U.S. response. An Israeli attack. It's a U.S. attack. Everything that Israel does is going to be backed by the U.S. no matter what the president says, no matter what the politicians say, no matter what the people say. It's always going to be. And here's how we know. We know because I saw a report that that the Trump administration was already meeting with nuclear officials, and I guess it's been in the news since January even, that they had been back and forth with nuclear talks and about arms and about enrichment and enrichment facilities and about the pursuit. And categorically, Iran has always said that they are not pursuing nuclear weapons, right? We know that because nuclear weapons are hard to make, they're expensive, and if you use them, you'll become the pariah of the whole world. So nobody really wants nuclear weapons anyway. But the threat of them being there, the facilities themselves being built, or the uranium being enriched, is something that they had to do to keep up the facade so that Israel would have the boogeyman of Iran to scare its people, the boogeyman of Syria to scare its people. Do you see what I'm saying? Iran is the big threat in the region against them. Do you see what I mean? It's the same thing with Hamas. Hamas is the internal threat. Iran is the external threat to keep Israel, the Israeli people, the Ashkenazi people, on their toes and compliant. You understand what I mean? and then also the world, and also the United States through Israel. So we have that interplay, but the real deal is that what they want to do is, and I'm losing my train of thought here, and I'll come back to it, but what they want to do is combine these societies into one Gog and Magog world order. That's what you're looking at here. Behind Israel, that's what I wanted to say, that the Trump administration had been meeting with the nuclear scientists for 6 months now already, and knew who they were and where they live. In fact, they met up just about 2 weeks before the attack. And I couldn't find this when I was looking for it again, but I'm not mistaken when I know that I heard it doing this research. But when I went back and looked for it, I couldn't find it. But apparently, the nuclear scientists and the generals, or the cabinet of defense that Iran has as its leadership, both the defense and the nuclear scientists that Trump and Trump's cohorts were meeting with, were all killed. In fact, they met with them 2 weeks ago, and that group that they met with, except for the liaison, were all killed. The guys that they just met with were all killed. So do you think that they knew this? That they knew the people that they were targeting to kill? Yes, because they were meeting with them. The United States was meeting with the people that they were preparing to kill, you guys. They were meeting, Trump was meeting with the people he was preparing to assassinate. And then Israel assassinated them. Again, this is with American tax dollars and with American support. And don't forget, while all this is going on, just yesterday, 70 people in Gaza were killed, not soldiers, not nuclear physicists, not generals or parliament, no war machine, no part of the war machine. 70 women and children were killed in Gaza yesterday, you guys. And check this out, both Israel and American troops were the ones that killed them. Check this part out too. Man, this is evil. They were going to get food supplies. These were people that were at a food aid event, and they were killed trying to get food to eat. Mostly women and children. 70. The same amount that is supposedly killed in Iran. 3 times the amount killed in Israel from the strikes. That's what I'm saying, you guys. Israel don't mind doing anything. And here's the thing. We've never seen rockets break through Israel's Iron Dome. We've never seen anything break through like we're seeing it now. We talked about in some of the last videos how the Iron Dome system always would wipe out like 99% of the oncoming threats. Well, how come this time it's only wiping out like 80% of the oncoming threats? You guys, Israel is not slick. We know that they could wipe out all of the bombs that they've got going right now. But they're not. They're allowing some to come through and to kill some of their people so that they can allow the facade to appear more real. Because yes, this happened last year. Yes, there was an attack in Iran from Israel last year. Yes, Iran shot missiles at Israel. And yes, Israel blew them all up and none made it through. So why now are some making it through? Is Israel's iron defense system weakened? No, it's not. They're allowing them to go through and allowing some people to get killed, you guys. That's just what Israel does. Israel does not mind, and this is Ashkenazi Israel. Ashkenazi Israel does not mind sacrificing its own people for their greater good, you guys. They don't mind at all. Not one bit, you guys. All this is to say something greater. Is to say that you're literally watching. You guys hear that? Maybe it's just me. That you're literally watching the reorganization of the mechanism of Magog, you guys. You are literally looking at the world order of Magog, the world rule of the Magogite societies, you guys. That's what you're looking at right now. That's what's absolutely being formed right in front of you, exactly in the way that the Bible says it would be, you guys. You have to understand, I want to show you guys a picture. This picture. It's the picture that I use for the cover art. And it is, you'll have to give it up to, I think this is a website called Jordan Valley. But this is just an excellent depiction right here. It's got the statue. It's got very clearly the nations that it represents. This is the statue in Daniel 2. It's got everything done really well until you get here, you guys. Divided kingdom. You've got the head of gold, Babylon. You've got the arm, the chest and shoulders of silver, and this is Persia, Media Persia, the real Persia. Then you've got the abdomen and thighs of brass or bronze, which is Greece. And then you have the iron legs, which is Rome. And then you have this weird divided kingdom that is 476 AD to the present. But wait, you guys, this is where you have to know what it is that you're looking at. Can we make this bigger even? Oh yeah, look at that. Made it bigger. So let's take a look at this, you guys. Why does this say 476 AD to the present? Why does it say that, you guys? What happened in 476 AD? You see what I'm saying? What happened in 470? Do I get to go backwards? Yeah. What happened in 476 AD, y'all? What happened? Rome fell to the Visigoths. If I'm not mistaken, it's Alaric and the Visigoths. Who are the Visigoths, you ask? The Visigoths are one of the divided tribes of Gog and Magog. I know we've talked about this so many times, but Gog and Magog is not one tribe. Gog and Magog are a succession of tribes that escape out of the Eurasian steppe in waves that began in about 500 to 600 BC. These men were in the Eurasian steppe going back and forth as the seasons changed, because the Eurasian steppe would ice over in the winter, so they would have to go as far to the east as they possibly could to get food. And so then it would thaw in the spring summer, or the spring summer. And as the weather warmed, it would warm from the east to the west. So these nomadic groups of people would come out from like being hibernated in winter, and then as the weather got warmer, would follow the warm weather into the west, right? And they had areas where they couldn't get past. You had an area in the west of a mountain chain. You had an area in the south between the Black and the Caspian Sea of a mountain chain, the Caucasus Mountains, the Gog Mountains. And then you had an area in the east, a mountain chain that they couldn't get across. So they were literally in this bowl to the north, going back and forth year after year, scrounging for food and becoming a multitude of people, just a pack of different people with different tribes. They couldn't maintain high numbers per tribe, so they came up with the concept of kicking a kid out when you're 18 years old or 17 or 16 to fend for yourself. This is where we get the modern American concept of out of the house at 18, because it comes from Magog, you guys. You understand that Isaac lived with Abraham all the way up until he was an old man, that the children of Israel lived with Jacob after they were married and had kids and had families. We didn't believe in kicking kids out to go fight for yourselves. They had to do that in Magog society because the food was so scarce and so far spread out that it could only maintain a small tribe. And so at a certain age, the men would get kicked out to go and form their own tribes and then to wander under a new name. Like you had all sorts of different names for these Magogite groups, and each one of them would successively, generation after generation, spawn new tribes. And when they kicked their kids out at the culmination of that generation, the kids would come together and form a new tribe, make a new name, and then go out hunting and marauding and doing the same thing. So you developed both predatory behavior, you developed small tribalism and a disjointed, state of being, and then you also developed extreme nomadic behavior, where you are going to always be on the move. You are going to always look for the next meal, the next village that you could raid, the next thing to conquer. Do you see what I'm saying? And so these people, at a certain time in history, escaped that mountain barrier, escaped right at the time of the Medo-Persian society, because we read the other day that the Scythians began to attack the Medes and the Persians, and they would always beat them back, but they began to attack at this time. They began to attack the Greeks and took over some areas of Greece in their turn. And we know that they were fighting the Romans in Britain, they were fighting the Romans in Gaul, they were fighting the Romans in Asia Minor, all over the world. These different groups, whether they be Alans, Lombards, Visigoths, Ostrogoths, I've gone over this list, Huns, Turks, Magyars, Bulgars, all of those groups come from the Khazars, come from the Eurasian steppe outward and into the rest of the world, as if just some gate was opened and they just flooded out. Do you understand what I'm saying? This divided kingdom is the kingdom that defeats Rome in 476 AD. One of those groups that escaped from the Caucasus Mountains, escaped from the Eurasian steppe, is called the Visigoths. And those Visigoths were the people that defeated Rome in 476. Then you have the start of the divided kingdom. You guys, instead of divided kingdom, put Magog right here. This is Magog right here, you guys. And we're going to prove it. We're going to prove it biblically. Let's take a look. Let's go to Daniel 2 right now. So this is the statue. This is the interpretation of the statue. Let's go to verse 40 here. I did want to go up and read another verse, but we'll start at verse 40. It says, "And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron." So we're looking at the fifth one, though. Or is it the fifth one? Babylon, Persia, Greece, iron. Okay, so yeah, the fifth one. "And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break into pieces and bruise." So 41 is where we'll start. "And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay, and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas, now let's just take a look at this. The kingdom will be partly strong and partly broken. So when we think of the European kingdoms today, we know that there's Germany, we know that there's Austria, we know that there's France, we know that there's Italy, we know that there's England, Ireland, Wales, we know that there's Scotland, we know that there's Belgium, we know that there's Norway. All of these different people are like divided. They're all divided, and at one point in time fought with each other and carved out these territories to where I've got my stuff and y'all have got your stuff, but can act as a single or an interconnected economic group when it needs to. You see what I'm saying? The European Union, and then we know going back in history that there have been alliances and then also falling out in different places. So they've behaved partly strong and partly broken. You guys, it's the same thing with the Middle Eastern wing, the Asia Minor wing, the Huns, the Bulgars, and all of these different people, the Turkic wing. Same way that they've had divided kingdoms and they fought amongst themselves. These are not, you're not talking about Persia versus, you could say Persia versus Moab or any of these different groups from ancient times. You're actually looking at all of those groups being wiped out or pushed south, and then different Magog clans coming in and capturing different areas and staking claim to those areas all throughout the Middle East, Afghanistan, India, Turkey, Syria, Israel, with the Khazars, Iran, Iraq, all of those different places, all of the stands, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, all of these different communities, all have just been scattered into different Magog, or as different Magog tribes in those particular regions. They all have the same culture. They all have, historically the same language groups. They all have the same racial characteristics. And then you go to the Eastern Bloc, which is the Mongols and what is called the Tartars, the nation of Tartaria. You guys, have you ever heard of the nation of Tartaria? If you're into, conspiracy theory, then they have this whole conspiracy about Tartaria. When in reality, you guys, Tartaria is another kingdom of Magog. It's an interconnected kingdom between Russia and China, full of people who are both Russian and Chinese. You guys don't recognize that the Russians and the Chinese are very, very similar people. My wife pointed it out to me and said, wait, doesn't Putin have kind of like these slanty looking eyes like a Chinese person? And I'm not trying to make racial generalities about it. It's just completely what it is, that you've got these Russian people who are connected to China. And we know that they are because there are Chinese, there's a lot of Chinese looking Russians. We know that there's a whole nation full of people that are both Russian and Chinese. It's, what's the name? Kazakhstan. Kazakhstani people look white and Chinese. We didn't know that there was such a strong connection between the two races, but there is. They're both from Magog. You're literally looking at China, Russia, England, Israel, Turkey, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Scotland, Wales, Germany, Austria, France, Italy, the United States, Canada, Australia, South Africa, Libya, Algeria, all of North Africa, Tunisia, all of that, all of those spaces, literally, and you guys will think that this is a joke, literally emerging from one Magog tribe or the other. You can trace them back all the way. You can trace the Vandals to Spain and North Africa. You can trace the Lombards to Italy. You can trace the Angles and the Saxons to England. You can trace the Visigoths and the Goths to Germany. You can trace the Huns to Hungary. You can trace the Bulgars to Bulgaria, you guys. You can trace the Huns to Romania. You can trace all of these different people. You can trace the Mongols to Mongolia and China. You can trace them all. And they all are descendants from the same family tree. It doesn't seem like you could have a family tree that would break over the world and conquer the world like that, but that's what the Bible says would happen. That this last kingdom would be broken and strong, that they would fight each other and they would get along. It says, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, which means that they will try to conquer by mingling every nation that they come in contact with and try to take them out genetically too. We see that happening. It says, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. This means regardless of all their mixing, regardless of all their attempts at forming singularity, they won't join in together until, of course, the very end, where these kings, or these 10 kings will come up, and then we'll see the kingdom given to the saints, you guys. This kingdom of iron and miry clay is called Gog and Magog, you guys. No way around it. When this diagram gives you the divided kingdom as the last beast, it's telling you that it's Gog and Magog, because the last beast is Gog and Magog, you guys. Let's look at Daniel 7. Daniel 7 tells the same story, you guys, except with a different dream and a different vision, with different metaphors. It says in verse 7, in Daniel 7, it says, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast. The fourth beast is also Gog and Magog, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. The residue of who? The residue of the Israelites, you guys. Look, and it says, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and had 10 horns. This is the same description as the kingdom, part of iron and part of miry clay. And remember, the kingdom that was of iron and miry clay, it says, in the days of these kings shall the Elohim of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So this is the last kingdom besides the kingdom of heaven on the earth. This is where we're going back to Daniel 2. Now jump back to Daniel 7. It says, now let's jump down here. And I think we're going to go down to verse, okay, all right. Verse 23. It says, let's start at verse 19. It says, then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was, again, diverse from all the others, which means it wasn't related to any of the other kingdoms. They weren't Romans, they weren't Greeks, they weren't Persians, and they weren't Babylonians, you guys. This is diverse, this is different. It says, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and whose nails of brass, which devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. It says, okay, so let's jump down here. This is, again, the same residue. Let's jump down to 23. It says, thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down, and break it in pieces. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings that shall arise, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be diverse from the first, and he shall subdue 3 kings. All right, and so we see that these are specific people that are going to come out of this Gog and Magog kingdom, and then the world is going to be given to the saints of the Most High. And so we recognize that this is the last kingdom on earth. Now, what about Revelation? Oh, but let's go to Ezekiel. So let's just prove that the kingdom of iron and merry clay is the last kingdom on earth. The fourth beast that is diverse from all the rest is the last beast on earth. And so now when is Magog coming? So let's look at this. This is, therefore, son of man, this is in Ezekiel 38. Prophesy and say unto Gog, thus saith Adon Yah, in that day when my people of Israel shall dwell safely, shalt thou not know it? And thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company, a mighty army. We know in the future that there's going to be some sort of revolutionary change in technology. It says, and thou shalt come up against my people Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days. And I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before their eyes. It will be in the latter days, in the last days. This is the kingdom here that is in the last days, that is diverse from all the rest, you guys. This is what history tells us. This is what prophecy tells us. This is what we see with our own eyes today, you guys. Look at this. It says, thus saith Adon. Let's look at verse 17. Thus saith Adon Yah. We know that the lowercase is Adon, and the capitalized would be Yah. Art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them? So check this out, you guys. That means that there are more Magog prophecies than we have in the Bible, because the only Magog prophecies that we have that are old are these ones. We don't have any ones that are older than this. You know, Daniel and Ezekiel were contemporaneous one to another, so they were at the same time. So that means that if it says, if it's in Ezekiel, it can't be talking about Daniel here. This is Ezekiel who said a long time ago that this understanding was prophesied, and we don't have anything else about Gog and Magog except for in Genesis. And there's no prophecy concerning Gog and Magog in the end times in Genesis. So where are the other ones? Where are the other prophecies of Gog and Magog? They have to be there, but they have to have been, check this out, you guys, edited out of the Bible. They had to have been edited out of the Bible. You guys, we know that the Romans knew who Gog and Magog were, because check this out. We know that the Romans correctly identified the barbarian tribes, the Visigoths that would later conquer them. We know that they correctly identified them because as they began to lose in war to them, the prophecies in the Bible changed. Remember, you're talking about at 476, you're talking about 150 years of Christian, of Roman Catholic Rome, you guys. So Roman Catholic Rome has been confronted with the prophecies of Gog and Magog and can see where these people are coming from in the north and how these people are behaving, and can recognize them for being Gog and Magog. You guys, the Romans recognize them too. There's writings from early Romans that say, hey, these, the early Christian authors in the Roman society, hey, that these guys coming from the north, these guys that y'all are in battle with right now are Magogites. We even know that Josephus was in the Roman court, and he identified the Scythians as Magogites. And we know that Vespasian listened to him completely. So Vespasian would have known that the people that he was at war with in Gaul and in England and in all these far-flung places were Magogites. He would have known that directly from Josephus. We know it directly from Josephus. You know that, Josephus served the Caesar. So if we know it now, 2,000 years later, Caesar knew it right then. He knows. And I'm sure that information wasn't vanished by the time, Rome converted to Christianity. They knew. They knew who they were up against. We know they knew because they started to change their prophecies or the interpretation of their prophecy. They started to say that Gog and Magog, once Gog and Magog start attacking and winning, and they start having to pay tribute to these Magogites, they start saying, oh, Magog is not a people, it's all evil, or it's the concept of evil. It's this metaphysical struggle within yourself. We all have to have this Gog and Magog battle within ourselves. They start, spiritualizing the concept because they were scared that the interpretation would bring war. You guys, would bring deeper war and a complete, wiping out of Roman Catholic culture. And it may have. It did eventually. It completely wiped them out eventually, where you can't even find a real Roman today. We don't know what happened to the real Romans. They got wiped out. They got wiped out everywhere they were. We don't know the real Romans. All we have now is Magogites, you guys. And we know they're Magogites because of their physical description, you guys. Because of their physical description. Because the people in Italy right now have blonde hair and blue eyes, or green eyes, or gray eyes, and this wasn't the depiction of the ancient Romans. But the ancient Romans had dark skin and black hair, dark eyes. That's the depiction of the ancient Romans. The Magogites look different. The Romans described them differently as having light skin, blonde, brown, or red hair, light eyes, tattoos all over their bodies. This is the description that the Romans give of the Magogites, of the Scythians. You guys, there's no way around. There's absolutely no way around this, that the divided kingdom is Gog and Magog, you guys. It's for sure Gog and Magog. It's for sure. And guess what? It's Gog and Magog even in the New Testament. Let's look at this in Revelation chapter 20. You think they don't know? They know. We're going to get to some ways that I'm going to show you that they know here in a minute. So let's just take a look. It says, and this is Revelation 20, in verse 7. This is after, of course, Satan was cast into prison. It says, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. You guys, this is after the millennial kingdom. Check this out. Before the millennial kingdom, you have the first iteration of Gog and Magog, where they are defeated in a great battle. After the millennial kingdom, you have the second iteration of Gog and Magog. Because guess what, you guys? It says that they will destroy a sixth of them, or they'll leave but a sixth. So 1/6 of Gog and Magog will be left over from that first great war. And so check this out. It says Gog and Magog, the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, you guys. This means that Gog and Magog are already there. This is why they mention it just once in the text, because you're assumed to know that they're already there, that they've been there, that this is where who the nations are in the future. That Gog and Magog is a passing thought, because the concept has already been explained to the people who this is written to. Some of them being Magogites themselves. Don't get me wrong. We can go to scripture that tells us that Scythians are included in the kingdom just like everybody else. We know that Elohim is no respecter of persons. But we also know that Elohim knows what he's talking about when he says that this is going to happen. That the people from this family, a family that's in both Revelation and in Genesis, that the people from this family will rule the world at the end and literally are the people that the devil will call. These are the people that the devil will call. And we're going to prove that. The people that are from the European nations, the people that are from the Middle Eastern nations, and the people that are from the Asian nations are all of them, Gog and Magog. And they know it. They exist in their own bubbles, but they know who they are and they know their ancient relation. Let's take a look. Let me show you how. Look at this, you guys. Look at this. Chirac is crazy. There's a French guy named Chirac. This says Bush, Chirac, and the war in Iraq. It says a heart-to-heart conversation between Bush and Chirac in January 2003 could have paved a better way forward. So let's look at this. This is George Bush, and I think this is the president of France in 2003. So let me read this, what it says. It says, and this is written about 10 years ago, but it's going to let you know what's going on, you guys. And I bet you didn't hear this in the news cycle. It says, in recent months, foreign policy has featured a fascinating exchange over, this is Foreign Policy, it's the magazine Foreign Policy. In recent months, foreign policy has featured a fascinating exchange over the legacy of President George W. Bush. The debate began with the publication this year of Gene Edward Smith's critical biography of the former president, especially Smith's controversial characterization of Bush as a militaristic religious zealot. What? Did we know George W. Bush? We thought George W. Bush couldn't tie his shoes. How is he a militaristic religious zealot? Let's keep reading. It says, in his review of Smith's book, Will and Bowden undertook a systematic rebuttal. And Bowden particularly focused on Smith's claim that in attempting to persuade French President Jacques Chirac to support a United Nations Security Council resolution authorizing the Iraq War, Bush told Chirac, Gog and Magog are at work in the Middle East. Biblical prophecies are being fulfilled. This confrontation is willed by God, who wants us to use this conflict to erase his people's enemies before a new age begins. You guys, this was in George Bush's official biography, that he went to war in the Middle East because of Gog and Magog. Did you guys hear that? And I mean, those of you that were around, shoot, I went to Iraq myself in 2003. You see what I'm saying? He's saying that the reason why they're going into Iraq is because of Gog and Magog, you guys. He's making it seem like here that he's talking about Iraq being Magog, and they were. You know, those people are, you know, right next to Turkey, right next to Iran. They were part of the same groups that came and conquered and, you know, kicked all the Babylonians out, kicked all the people that were there before out. But we know now that when he says Gog and Magog are at work in the Middle East, he's talking about Israel and himself. This Bush is talking about himself. You guys, George Bush is talking about himself working in the Middle East. Remember, they're the ones that set up Saddam Hussein. Gog and Magog at work in the Middle East is him and Israel. Regardless of who else is Magog, they're all Magog in that region, but he's talking about himself, you guys. Let's look at another one of these. We're going to go into that here in a minute. Okay, so we're looking at here. Again, this is another reference to George W. Bush, referencing Gog and Magog going into war in Iraq. And I wish I could have read this entire thing, but they've got me at a block. I think there's a paywall here. I tried to get through this paywall, but I couldn't. It says, this essay will assess the veracity of the story. They're trying to say the story is not real. It's printed in his biography. Of course it's real. It says, let's see. Let's go back. It says, a recent book by the veteran journalist Kirk Eckenwald has revived the claim that in 2003, George W. Bush cited biblical end-time prophecy in a futile attempt to persuade Jacques Chirac to join the invasion of Iraq. And they did. They ended up sending some troops. It says, Gog and Magog are at work in the Middle East. Bush allegedly told the French president, biblical prophecies are being fulfilled. This stunning charge is not new. It was first made by a theology professor at the University of Lausanne in 2007, then by a French journalist 2 years later. It attracted some attention in Europe, but got little traction in America until now. If it is true, it could prove that the United States launched the Iraq War, at least in part, because of Bush's reading of scriptural prophecy. You guys, are you kidding me? Because Bush is trying to connect Gog and Magog himself. He is launching wars in Iraq. We know that Iraq war has been planned for a long time, that Israel has been behind it. The Ashkenazi Israel has been behind this unification in the background for a very, very long time. But I want to show you guys something else, because they will try to lead you to believe that somehow it's Iraq that's supposed to be Gog and Magog, and they're the forces of good coming to destroy Gog and Magog. But we know that that's not the case, because this is how we know. Because George W. Bush is a member of Skull and Bones, you guys. I know this is going to a lot of different places in this video, but George W. Bush is a member of Skull and Bones, just like his father, just like many of the, look, this is a artist rendition here, a cartoon. This is supposed to be Daddy Bush, and this is Baby Bush right here. This is George H.W., and this is George W., both in Skull and Bones. And so what was George H.W.'s nickname when he was in Skull and Bones? What was his title? What was George Bush's title when he was in Skull and Bones, you guys? Let's take a look. Let's see. Okay. Let's take a look here. Okay. And so let's look. Avril Harriman, these are all people that were in this group. Avril Harriman was Thor. Henry Lucy was Bale. Look at these names these nicknames. McGeorge Bundy was Odin. The name Magog is traditionally assigned to the incoming bonesman deemed to have the most sexual experience, and Gog goes to the new member with the least sexual experience. William Howard Taft and Robert Taft were Magogs. So interestingly was George Bush. Do you see what I'm saying? George H.W. Bush, his Skull and Bones title was Magog. So you guys will want to take very close, or pay very close attention, that George Bush Sr. called himself Magog. It says George W. was not assigned the name, but invited to choose one According to one report, nothing came to mind, so he was given the name Temporary, which is that he never bothered to replace. Temporary is how Bush's fellow Bonesmen know him today. In recent interviews, I asked a number of Bush's Bonesmen classmates about the name and elicited no denials. So that means if George W. Bush was called Temporary because he didn't have a skull and bones name, that means that George H.W. Bush, his actual name in the society was Magog. That he was called Magog. His nickname was Magog. So how then, years later, is George W. going, invading Iraq to destroy Magog if his daddy is Magog? If your dad is Magog, are you trying to destroy Magog? No, you're not. You're trying to unify Magog to inflict upon the world. Because you know if your daddy's Magog, then you are too. And you can say, oh, well, they're just naming themselves any old thing, and that none of these things have any relationship to anything except for just, people acting silly. Oh, no, you guys. Look at the names. Avril Harriman was Thor. Thor is a Norse god, a Magogite god, you guys. And not just any old Magogite god. Thor, we know that he's got movie, and we're not supposed to say the names of these false deities, but he's got a movie made about him, and then all of these supposed special powers. Let's just take a look at the Bible and see if we can make an identification with this person. Let's go to Genesis 10, you guys. If you've been on my channel long enough, you'll already know where I'm going with this. All right? Okay, so these are the sons of Japheth: Gomer and Magog and Madai. We know the Magogites. We know the Sumerians. The Sumerians are the Gomerites. They're the ones that came into Gaul originally. The Magogites came and destroyed them, merged with them. Madai are the Medes. They went a different direction. Magogites destroyed them with the Persians. And Javan, that's Greece, destroyed them too. Tubal and Meshach, those are also in Russia. Thrace, Tiraz, this is in the Greek area right here. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Riphath, and Togarmah. So this is who we're looking at right here, Togarmah. So let's look at this one. So Togarmah, Togarmah. All right, let's keep looking. They've all got Togarmah in here. But if we could actually go to the LXX version and see, this one says Togarmah. This one says Dafir. This is interesting. Tugar, I haven't seen that name before. Now here it is, Brenton Septuagint translation. Remember, the Septuagint is actually an older, earlier translation. Even though it's in Greek, it has some things in it that are more accurate than the Bible that we have. So look at this, you guys. I bet you guys ain't ever seen this before. Thor-Gamma. Do you see that? In the Septuagint, it's not Togarmah, it's Thor-Gamma. So Thor is literally a son of Gomer, a literal cousin of Magog. Thor is a cousin of Magog, an ancient relative of the people who were worshiping him. You guys ever heard of ancestor worship? Thor is their ancient daddy. You guys, where did it go? Thor-Gamma is Thor. And so we see that these people, that this group of people, that these Magogites, and again, I don't mean to speak, racially or bigoted or in any way, associate, any sort of racism into the picture. But we have to take biblical prophecy seriously, you guys. When we look at it, when we look at these connections, and we look at the way that the families have grown out and where they've gone and the people that they've conquered, the things that they've done, have they broken down the world and tore it in pieces? Absolutely. Have they stamped the residue of Israel? Absolutely. Are they a bunch of different tribes that work together and then separately? Absolutely. Is there going to come a time when they fall? Absolutely. Scripture says that Jerusalem will be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled, you guys. And so we are coming to that very last, that final stage where we can see the forces of Magog consolidating themselves together to give up their authority to the beast and to the dragon, and for the implementation of the mark of the beast and the name of the beast and all of these different things. We believe that the name of the Messiah, the name of the beast, is Gog. That the anti-Messiah's name, did I say Messiah? Anti-Messiah's name is Magog. The false Messiah, the one that you see, the one that's even called Jesus, is the Magogite anti-Messiah, you guys. He has all the racial characteristics, he has all the doctrinal characteristics, and then he has also the prophetic characteristics, that he is coming in the same way that the real Messiah is coming, except that he just gets here first, you guys. We need to be very, very, very vigilant about what's going on right now. We see the consolidation of nations happening right in front of us. We see the implementation of AI. We see that even in the America Day rally, or I guess you could call it just like a parade through DC. Even with that, I watched the speech at the end where Trump said that he, by the parade, was declaring victory. What victory is he talking about? What war does he need victory in? You see what I'm saying? He's declaring victory over something. He's declaring victory over America, you guys. That America's been conquered. That the entire country of America has been reorganized under a dictatorship that will be ruled in a way that will be similar to every other state, every other nation. That the will of the government will be prophetic, you guys. If George Bush, the one that's supposed to be the dunce of the family, if he's invading Iraq for religious purposes, not Christian purposes, religious purposes. He's no Christian. If his daddy was named Magog, you think he's Christian? For religious purposes, invading Iraq, why do you think Trump right now is aiding and killing Gazans and striking Iran? Because that same prophecy, that they are the same will of their God, they're following. And they're following it lockstep. You see what I'm saying? They're following it lockstep. So we need to be following the will of our Elohim lockstep. We need to be paying attention to these prophecies and understanding what they mean, and what the future will hold in them, and where we should be and who we should be hanging out with, and all of these different things. We know that we can't fellowship with anybody who is a Trump supporter. That's categorically different from what the scripture and from what understanding the scripture is going to tell you. Anybody that is a supporter of Trump is not going to be aligned with biblical understanding. Anybody that's a supporter of the Democrats is not going to be aligned with biblical understanding. It's our responsibility to give you guys the truth in the scripture, not Esau, not any of the other false prophecies that they've cobbled together. No, the sure thing, you guys, the absolute 100% sure thing. The feet and toes kingdom is Gog and Magog. The fourth beast is Gog and Magog. The implementer of the mark of the beast is Gog and Magog. The end of the world belongs to Gog and Magog, and they will be defeated by incoming Messiah twice, you guys. This is Yao with Hebrew News. We're going to check back in with this. I've got one more video on this subject. Or I've got probably plenty of videos on the war that's coming up. But this Gog and Magog, I've got another one coming out. So please stay tuned. Shalom, shalom, you guys. Stay blessed up. Stay prayed up. We know that Elohim Yao has got his people under control, whether you be by blood or by faith, that he's got his people, the remnant, the residue. He has a place for us according to Revelation chapter 12. We just have to be faithful, and we have to move when it's time to move, you guys. All right. Shalom, shalom.